I'm Sheila. Now, most of you are used to seeing me outdoors and camping, hence Sheila outside. But my other passion is budget travel. Now, I figured out a way to do my bucket list for a fraction of what I thought it was going to cost me. Um, about 6 months ago, I started looking into hosteling. Now, before you say anything, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, isn't your butt a little bit old to be hosteling? Well, yes, my butt is old. I am almost 60. But too old for hosteling? Not at all. Because just like everything changes and evolves, so has hosteling. So I am here to give you a few tips on how to successfully hostel after the age of 50. Tip number one, Google, Google, Google. I started with the top 20 list of USA's best hostels. Now, some of the really good hostels are not on that list. But if you cross-reference it with something like booking.com for wherever it is you want to go and additional hostels come up, well, then you can do some comparing. I have found that the ratings for hostels are pretty spot on accurate. You can almost count on whatever I would say most people say about it is absolutely true. Um, the next thing leads me to reviews. Read all the reviews, but single in on the ones in your age group. Because 9 times out of 10, people in our age group, we want the same things. We want cleanliness, we want a great price. If we can get a little luxury too, that's great. So single in on the reviews in your age group, but look at all of them. Um, let's see, I got a little list here. Uh, the next thing I would say would be rates. Hostels have to stay within a certain price range or they lose their hostel status. The odds of you finding a hostel that costs $120 a night are pretty rare. And if you do, it's usually a private room with 2 beds, and it is someplace fan friggin' tastic. In other words, it's not going to be in middle of the country USA. It's somewhere fabulous. Um, whether it be New York or Montreal or Miami, it's going to be fabulous. And it's still going to be a better value than a Motel 6 because you're trying to do it cheap. Okay, so think about that. There also are going to be deposits. Um, Usually, a hostel the deposit will be anywhere from 0 to maybe $50, and you get that upon checkout. You can decide either to pay with your card or you can decide to pay cash, but you need to check with each property. That brings me to reservations. There are a few reputable, okay, you got it, services to help you make your bookings. Two that come to mind. One is Hostelling International, known as HI. It is probably the oldest. And the one I use is Hostel World. Now, I know for Hostel World, they usually charge me a small deposit when I make my reservation, maybe $5 or $10. The most expensive reservation I have ever made was $100 a night, no security deposit, 2 rooms, fabulous ultra modern bathroom in Key West, two very safe blocks from Duval Street. It was worth every dime. And I might as well tell you, I went alone. I just chose to pay for both beds so I could have the room to myself. But that gives you an idea of what hosteling is. Now, like I said, it won't be for everybody, but like I said, I'm almost 60. I've spent most of my life either being boss lady in my own business or being mommy. The last 3 years, I haven't had to be anybody but Sheila. You know, I work a couple of hours a week. You know, I have a small private income, but I make it work for me. And because of hosteling, I can hit those bucket list things that I wanted to do. So I thought I would share that with you. I'm trying to think, is there anything? Yep, I'm old. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, seasons. I'll be honest with you. You do not want to go to a hostel in high season because that's when the affluent gap year young people go. I prefer to go off season. But if you're my age, you can do that. You're not limited by only holidays or whether school is out. You can go anytime. I personally like to travel in May, and sometimes I like to travel in January. It depends where I'm going. But those are basically off seasons, and the rates really drop, even for hostels. So I just wanted to share those things with you. The next part of this will be how to behave while you're at the hostel. So hold on, and I will be right back with you. Okay, now let's talk about how to behave while hosteling. First, remember, unless you have a private room and a private bath, you are sharing. Typically, the rooms sleep two, four, six, and then there are what I call the cattle call hostels, which you definitely want to stay away from. They can have as many as 20 bunks in one room. I personally prefer 4 people to a room or a private room. Um, but basically, behavior is if you went to college or if you have been in the military, think about how you had to carve out your own space and kind of get along with the people in your sphere. Now, I didn't go to college and I was never in the military. And I've never really shared anything in my life other than when I was married or when I was raising my child. So, for someone like me, the idea of having to share a bathroom with 3 other people is the thing that stopped me from trying this earlier, even though I had found out they had luxury hostels. But once I went, I realized it was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. Mainly because they're all there for the same reason you are. They are there to see whatever location you're at. Everybody's out and about. About the only time you actually run into your bunk mates is maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night when everyone's coming back in for the evening to go to bed so they can get up and start the sightseeing cycle all over again. It was just not a problem. I found out that I worried for absolutely nothing. Just nothing. And if you stick to the high-end hostels and you do it off season, I don't foresee you having any problems, with bunkmates or anything like that. But there are a couple of things that you do need to keep in mind since you are sharing. One, if you come in after 10 o'clock at night, don't turn the light on. Take a headlamp with you or something like that, but be respectful. You don't know whether or not one of your bunkmates has to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because they have an early flight. And you know what? They've done this a lot more than you have. They already know not to turn lights on. So don't turn on any lights. Be prepared if you're going to come into the room late. The bathroom. Even though the bathrooms are cleaned daily, and yes, hostels have maid services just like hotels. See? I bet you didn't know that. But even though someone comes in and cleans the bathroom sometime during the day, it's always nice if you tidy up behind yourself a little bit before you leave it. And try not to stay in the bathroom more than 15 or 20 minutes. If at all possible, do your makeup or your hair in the room and just leave the bathroom for body functions and showers and baths and things like that, because other people need to get in, get dressed so they can start their day too. Now, I found it helpful. I I actually found it helpful to come back to the room about 6 o'clock because none of my bunkmates were there. They were all off having dinner. That's when I would take my shower after my long day, and then I would go down and have dinner. And then the rest of the evening, all I did was sit around the pool. So how yucky did I get? And then the next morning, you know, I maybe went into the bathroom to wash my face, but I didn't need to do the full-blown hygiene thing. That worked really well for me. Don't touch other people's stuff. Now, I know I don't have to tell you this. You're 50 years old. So, but, you know, sometimes things should be said. So I'm going to say, don't touch someone else's stuff. And yes, you have a right to be indignant if someone touches yours. The hostels provide lockers. They even provide enough space for a steamer trunk. So yeah, use the lockers. Bring your own lock, sort of like your old high school locker. You know, bring something that will fit. You know, has a neck on it and that will fit. I never had a problem. As a matter of fact, I brought a lock that was too small, and all you really had to do was yank it, and it would come open, and I still didn't have a problem. I have found that as long as you stay at the higher end hostels, the young people that you do run into, well, I ain't gonna lie to you, these kids came from money. I mean, they're taking a gap year. They're going to Europe. They're touring the USA. They stay each place about 3 days and move on to the next place. They don't need to steal your stuff. But if you stay at some of the, well, then you're taking a chance. And my feeling is this: if the difference between a and a high-end hostel is like $30, spend the money, okay? Spend the money and give yourself a little bit of security and you feel better. If there is a problem, then go straight to the front desk. That's their job to handle stuff. You know, don't get crappy with, if somebody gets crappy with you, two wrongs don't make a right, and you're old enough to know better. You take your ass right down to the front desk and you squeal because you have a right to protect you and your stuff. I would not have a problem with it, but I didn't have any problem. So there you are. What else should I say? All of the hostels that I stay at, they all have pools, they all have lounge areas, they all have restaurants. Behave the way you would at any hotel. Just, you know, use your I'm someplace fancy manners, because 9 times out of 10, if you're staying at a high-end hostel, you are staying someplace fancy. And if you're anything like me, when I was in Key West, and there were everybody at the hostel was my age. They were all anywhere from 35 to 60. And I'm sitting around and I'm talking to people on either side of me, and we're all sitting around going, do you believe this? Do you believe this? Now, my room cost $100 a night because I paid for 2 beds. But had I only paid for 1 bed, my share of the room would have only cost $50. For $50, the place had 3 separate swimming pools. Okay, it was friggin' drop dead beautiful and 24/7 Starbucks. So no, we're sitting around going, can you believe this? Kids don't deserve this. We deserve this. And I actually read an article once where someone was complaining that people my age discovered the high-end hostels. And they were talking about they can't even get in on the off season now because of all the old people sitting around by the pool acting like they're at a 5-star hotel. That is what hosteling is all about now. So I think the next thing we're going to talk about is packing. Now, I think I already have a video on packing, so I may just tack it on. We'll see how it goes. But I hope that I have given you some information that 1, you hadn't thought about, or 2, you had just discounted. And I encourage you to follow the links that I put in the description, because the last 2 backpacking vacations I took, one was Miami and one was Key West. And I do an in-depth review on the hostel, so you will get a good sense of what you can expect to find based on the property that you pick. So let's go ahead and wrap this part up. And like I said, I think there's going to be a suggested packing video behind this. Um, and I may come back on and I may not, but I may just come back on and say bye. But enjoy the suggested way to pack for hosteling, because I think that for hosteling, one bag travel is the way to go. One, you save money on luggage fees on airlines, and two, it's just easier to manage. And if you decide you want to walk around either before your room is ready or after your room is ready, at least you're not pulling a rollie looking like a Target and a tourist. I prefer a designer backpack so it doesn't look like I'm a tourist. I kind of like to blend in. So anyway, go ahead and watch the video, and I just may see you later.